Alright, there are plenty of reviews and installation guides on these. These are the Oracle Sidetrack lights in the box here. What we are going to try to do today is one thing that I've had difficulty finding online. And that is, I'm going to try to install this without removing the fender liner, any of that. It will require us to move the actual vent. There are a couple videos out there on that. And try to kind of maybe help you guys do an install with a little bit less tearing apart, and see what we can't make it work. I'm going to kind of document those shortcuts, but the average install and all the wiring and exactly how you want to set it up, I might give some suggestions, but I'm going to leave that up to you guys. So with that there, let's get started. I'm just going to basically open up the hood and start pulling this off. And for those of you guys that hadn't seen my videos recently here, I've been running the Cascadia 4x4 solar panel charger on this, which has been extremely nice. It's been a few months, have not had any types of battery issues, and this Jeep does sit around sometimes for maybe a week or two at a time. As you can tell, even in the garage, it's picking up enough voltage that it's still charging that battery while sitting here in the garage, not even having complete sun on it. Also, if you hadn't seen my other video where we put the shock installs, it is really nice just being able to pop that up and not worry about it. To get this vent off, we're going to start with using some body trim removal. These are plastic, and we are just going to kind of pry in. It might be hard for me to do this with one hand. I'll probably have to do two hands, and then I'll show you the back side of it just so you know how to kind of remove. Alright, and in some of the videos that are out there, they do suggest pulling this off a little bit and trimming just a little tiny notch right in this, and that is to match up where this part here comes through. Just as you see, they've got a kind of little notch in that. It's just doing that one in this. I'm just going to pull it off, like I said, to feed the wires through, get it all worked out, and then I'll put it all back in later. To do that, you just get the pry tools kind of back in there. It pulls off to that point. And we're just going to slowly work it out. You see there's a little tiny push pin on that side. I might be able to work it with just getting this much off here. So I think I'm going to try to work it through that amount of space instead of pulling it all the way out, because that's more than enough, but it just sits there with that little bit of gap. Alright, as you can see, I just very easily used a coat hanger that's straightened out, and I just kind of pushed it in the downwards positioning. It's kind of hard to see, and it gets it right up and over that lip. As you can see, it's coming out right here. I know it's kind of hard to see, but kind of right where my fingers are at, and here. So we can definitely get a wire ran through this without completely removing this or without moving that bottom shield like they want. Our only issue will be when we come up here to do some of the wires, but we do have some screws and a little bit of access we can kind of get up into there. Alright, and trying to do this one-handed, I just grabbed a permanent marker, and I went ahead and marked where that lines up. So as I pull this away, I've got two little tiny marks, and I'm going to come back with a Dremel tool and just Dremel that out just a little bit to let those wires come through. Alright, so it might be hard to see the marks on camera, but I'm just going to come in here real carefully. And about that much is all that you need. This plastic's going to be hot, so I'm going to try to remove it while it's still fresh. And double check that that will close back down with the light fitting in. And that looks good. So that's going to meet up nice and flat. So now I'm going to go ahead and run my wires through this. And this probably will be the most difficult part, just kind of feeding it down and in, but it does show up on the other side. And I'm just going to kind of place that there while I grab the wires from the inside. And I can feel them. I'm going to try to do this without losing that. Let's see what I can do here. And there they are. I'm just going to kind of reach down, grab them, and here are our wires coming back up. And we'll be able to use those from there. Alright, if you are like me and have ever waxed your vehicle, this is going to hurt your feelings because you're essentially going to be taking that wax layer off. But we are going to come around with the alcohol prep pad they provide and get that whole area that it's going to adhere to. And you will want to do this because that takes off that wax layer that makes the adhesion work the best. I am probably going to have to trim just a little bit of my sticker from Tennessee going to Cades Cove. We'll get all the way up in here. And the nice part, once we get this on, we can come back on the outer edge and redo a wax layer on it. But get it nice and well until all the alcohol in it has dried up. And this is where you're going to want to go nice and slow and make sure that you do get everything lined up. You don't want to push this too far in because you want to remember to let this have space to fall back on. Kind of get a visual. And then we're going to just take and undo the tape. All right, we're going to take the last of that tape off. Line it up and then give it a good solid push. Letting it sit out in the sun is going to help a lot. So that's installed, and now with this part here, we can push it back down and look at that install. So there's almost no gap on that whatsoever with that quick. And now we'll move to the inside to get these wires done. All right, we're going to use an open-ended wrench back here to get this ground screw off. It's a 10mm. Kind of a pain just with the wires there, and then your ground wire goes on. That should be your black one, and it's already got the end cap. I'm going to run this on the back side just to pretty it up a little bit. Just a standard wire, you guys. It might be a little bit hard to see, but as you can tell, I've got that wire coming up from that back side, and now we're just going to tighten that down. All right, I know this might be hard to see, but this right here, this wire that is on the top side of my finger is what we're actually going to be hooking into. So what we're going to do is just give it a good pull down, and it should come disconnected. And then on the back side, if we flip it over, we're going to pull this red pin up and separate it just so we can get a little more of this wire and work with it. But we are going to the white and green wire, which is all the way almost over. And we're going to trim back some of this just to get a little bit better access to it. So I'm using just kind of it's actually a punch, but you could use a mini screwdriver and just push on that red. You can do this actually with one hand, and then this part right here, you're gonna push down on it, and that will allow it to separate. Might be able to do it with one hand if we're good. If not, we might have to get our second hand in there. Yep, there we go. And now it gives us just a little bit more to work with, so we can pull it up and again get to that splice. All right, so this next part is not required, but I find it easier just doing it the way that I've done it through the years. And what we're going to do is, again, kind of seeing that we've got this side, we're going to take just a small razor blade, and we're just going to trim back some of that electrical tape. If you're not comfortable using a razor blade, you don't have to, but just coming back just a little bit where we can work some of that back. Normally I'd actually split the wire and actually solder in just for, you know, more longevity, but just for simple ease and use, I'm just going to use their simple attachment. It lays in, and we're going to use a pair of pliers and kind of clamp it down, and it is self-splicing. And we're just going to make sure that it closed all the way, which it did. And before I put this all back together, I'll go ahead and just test that light just to make sure we're working on the yellow wire, which is here. And this will just be a quick connect in. Might be easier to slide that little cover back a little bit. I know this might be hard to see. Slide that in and then cover that back down. And I will probably add some electrical tape on that just to make sure that it doesn't come loose and causing problems. But if I grab my keys, we do have it working just that fast. So just a couple minutes install. I've been out here about 15 minutes and already have one side done minus the white. And we'll get to that next. Alright, and like I said, this might be hard to see on film just because of the angles, but I am going to take some electrical tape and wrap this up, and it might be easier for me to just kind of show you when I'm done, just because you can't really see much with my hands and stuff's trying to fall. All right, and I'm trying to record this with one hand, movable, but as you can tell, I've got the electrical tape on it. So now we need to get our other end of our cable back, and we're going to need to connect them. I'm gonna have to use two hands. All right, I had to use two hands to get this back together and re-secured that plastic clip. And we're just gonna try to find the hole that it goes back in, slide it back in, and there you go. That is done. And I'm gonna try to slide you down from an angle and kind of see what's going on there. And I'm gonna come back with some wire loom and clean this up just so that it's not rubbing and can rub through. All right, and I'm not going to leave you high and dry saying that the passenger side is going to be the same, because I know better than that. The nice part is the stuff's in the same spot, but we might have to do a little bit more digging. I got some electrical cords. I might have to end up coming in from the bottom side. I'm going to get into this, figure out what the best way is, and even if I make a mistake, I'm going to make suggestions. But this is all going to come apart the same way, so I'm going to just fast forward through all that and get to the point where these wires get connected for you. All right, you guys, one thing I did notice on the second one, once I got my pry kind of in, it wasn't really wanting to come off too well. But if I took my longer, skinnier one, if you actually push on this little tab right here, I know it's kind of hard to see, and you push on this larger tab, that tab pushes down, allowing it to come out without breaking or popping. So make sure that you push down that a little bit, just kind of help it get out a little easier on both sides. All right, as you can see, I have already finished up this side. Pushing that back in, so that's good to go. I came up to the inside. Obviously there was a lot more wiring because of the battery. You could remove this battery, so if you're installing a new battery or even one of the Genesis dual batteries at the time, this would be a good time to run it. But what I did is I ran my my cable down there, just kind of poking it through. There's a small hole down there, might be hard to tell, and we're going to go from the bottom side looking up. And I hadn't been down here yet to see exactly where it is. I do got some extra wires down here. This is from my Lux lighting, but you can see there are the wires hanging down. And the hanger is just right here to this side. It's kind of hard to tell. So what I'm going to do is try to keep you guys in frame, moving this light around. Let me see if I can get that light sticking to anything. It is a magnet. And I'm going to take the black cord. Oh, and there it goes, of course. And it's now hard for me to see too. I'm just going to wrap it around the coat hanger. And now I've got it, let me get the light up there. Just like that, just to pull that one back up. And from there, I'm going to start hunting for that other wire to connect in to, which I will show you where that's at. So once you come from the top here, we are just going to slowly pull this up. And again, this is just the ground wire. I probably should have done that with the white wire also, knowing it's going to come up. I've already set some other stuff up. If you see some of my other videos of using the Lux rock lights as ground lighting for when your door opens, it's going to do the same thing that these white lights are going to do. And since I've already got that wire ran, I'm not going to run it all the way into the cab like the other videos have instructed. But we're just going to take this off now and connect it to our ground post. Alright you guys, I'm going to try to record this. I'm going to tell you that it's going to be difficult because these two parts here you kind of end up pulling out. There are two 10mm screws, one right here in your fender, one right here in the front. If you just take those out, it helps movement just a little bit. But I'm not going to lie, this is going to be a hard trick to do. You're going to use the T-tap. And I'm going to have a pair of pliers ready to go with them kind of squeezed on. Get my hand up on it. We are going for the white with the brown stripe. And I'm going to try to put you guys up where you can see it. I can't guarantee what's going to come out of it though. So let's see what we get. And it's kind of hard to tell, but right, oh, where'd it go? I did already find the cable. Here it is. Let me make sure this is in frame. Again, I'm going to try to stick my light up in here for you guys. So it is this cable right here. And I'm gonna try to do it without even disconnecting, just kind of grab onto it and make this work. If you have someone else at the house that can kind of pull this away, it's gonna help. But we are going on the back side. Which honestly, for this side, you guys, I hate to go in from this side, but I think we're going to go in on the green and white still. Just getting it from this side is going to be a little easier. And at a certain point, to not have to undo everything, it's kind of worth it. So let me see if I can get this on. Of course, you don't want that yellow one in there. I'm trying to fight around that. And from my angle, it's pretty hard to see. So I'm kind of have to go looking at it and then kind of feeling around. Make sure when you get this self-tap in, that one, the second wire is not in it, and you want to make sure it's lined up with that little tiny slit like that. Once you get that, hold it tight. Use a pair of pliers, kind of squeeze it down. And we should be good with that. Just checking to make sure that it clipped all the way and it's locked in, which it is. I'll go ahead and put the yellow wire on it. I'm going to slide outside, test the light, and then if it's working, I will come back in and put some electrical tape on it. And let me try to get you guys down, kind of. Okay. And let's see if we got it. There we go. So the light is working, so we're connected. I'm going to go back up in there with some electrical tape and get that done off of camera because it's kind of hard. All right, and I have gotten that taped back up and the wire is done. Obviously the tape is helping hold that in place. It's back in place. I've still got to run this white line up to the top, which is going to come right where this negative wires come. I'll put that wire back down. One thing I did discover though, I was pushing kind of hard on this, just kind of get out of the way to get that electrical tape on, and I heard a pop. No big deal. The little plastic piece popped out from the body mount here, which is one thing that's pretty common and easy to do. And when that happened, it gave me probably an extra 6 inches of room. So my suggestion is, coming from the very beginning, pop this front one off, and if you see how much more space that gives just doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it back in place now. As you see, it just goes right back in, so it's not a big deal. But that was definitely, if I had done that from the beginning, I probably could have gotten much better angles and just done it a lot quicker. All right, from the bottom side, I've already attached the white wire, so we're just gonna pull that up. Again, the white wire is for the white light. See, it's trying to snag just a little bit. There we go. Just move it a little to the side a little bit. And there it comes on my little cheater stick. Now this is out, I'm just gonna lay it right there. So there's a couple different options for connecting this in. The most common way is going through the interior light for down here and flushing all that wire through. I can tell you, I've done it before. Going through there's not fun. Luckily for the Gladiator, because we have the truck bed light, I've already got a series of wires ran. If you watch my other videos, you'll see that. Down to this nice light you see right here. And so because of that, I've already got those plugged in as part of my unlock. You can see them in my another video. When I hit unlock, those are actually coming on, and my rock lights are coming on. So luckily, I've already got all that wiring to right here. So what I'm going to do is just connect this wire into here, and I'll either run a jumper cable over to that side, or because those lights are also on this side, I might just run the wire from the bumper and come up to it. We'll see what I'm going to do, but either way. But this is a good time to think, what do you want these lights used for? If you're going to be going off on trails and you were wanting this more as ground coverage, you can actually use one of the tricks in my other video that allows 2 inputs and 1 output. So you could actually have a switch on the inside of the Jeep to turn on, turning this light on for ground rock lights and stuff. And then you could also have it as an entry light. You can make it combinations and series of stuff. It's just really, what do you want to do with it? I'm just going to hook this in line with my existing setup because I also have it where when I can turn just my rock lights on by switch number 3, because I've got the factory switches, or when I turn which one was it? Sorry, the truck bed light on, what I've got that connected into is it automatically does that. So that was a way for me to overcome the off-roading and needing to use those lights differently. And that's how I wanted to wire them in, was to the actual truck bed light. So that's gave me a way to have an on-off switch at the same time as also having them as the ground light, entry light. So these are just kind of some different stuff to throw out there for you guys for what your ideas are. All right, and before you completely finish up, don't forget to put these screws back, or nuts, bolts back in. One forward, one back. You probably didn't have to pull this one in the front off. I went ahead and just did it just because. All right, and after just kind of thinking how I wanted to run it, I've decided I am just going to run a wire from this side and jumping it over to that side, and I'm going to use that case back here. These have these little tiny clips. They're kind of hard to see, but to pop them off, the easiest way is get a flathead screwdriver and just kind of barely put it in there. If you twist just a little bit, it gives it just enough space to kind of pull off. Let me see if I can get it on film. There we go, just like that. And you just do that all the way across. It does help when you get over to the cooling reservoir, that you sometimes is easier if you go ahead and disconnect these two and kind of just shift it a little bit to get through. But we'll run that wire right out here. I've already ran some wires in here already before, so these clips are probably gonna be pretty easy for me. The first time you do it, it is a little hard. And with that being said, if you were wanting to actually have a left and a right side light that you could use independently of each other, you would not want to run a jumper wire, but actually put them on switches independently. For some of you guys that are running the 6 and 8 boxes for the auxiliary type wires, that would be a good option, is to have a left and a right, so you have your clearance sides, and then you could still go back, like I showed in my other video, and have your 2 in, 1 out that you could control both on at the same time for entry and stuff like that, but then still have just your right and your left for other stuff. All right, I'm not going to record the whole thing, but as you see, I've gotten a good start to part of this being off. And what I'm going to do is just run the wire straight in there, kind of get the first half and then the second half. I am using 16 gauge. I am going to use some black wire just because I have so much of it right now. I don't really have a lot of red. That's generally not the best because black is normally for your ground. But I know what it is running it, so I'm not too stressed. But for you guys out there, if you are going to go purchase wire, purchase a red or a green or a yellow or a different color wire to indicate to you that it is not a black ground wire. All right, as you can see, this is the black wire coming across. And what I've done is, instead of using their connectors, I just like to use this style better than the ones that can push and pull apart. So we'll go ahead, slide these together. I've got my crimp tool. And you can use their style too. I mean, that's not a problem. We're gonna crimp that together. And now I'm gonna come back and wrap that in electrical tape just to secure it. And then I will tuck this down to the side and put a little bit of a zip tie or some way to secure it in a little bit better. And that would be interconnected with the other side. I'm just, like I said, I'm just gonna run both sides at once. Sorry for the camera falling. But we'll get that, and we're gonna tuck it kind of back in there. And I'm gonna go back in with some wire loom and everything else and clean that inside up. All right, as I discussed earlier, this is how I've set it up. This is the dual relay that allows, or not relay, but basically allows 2 sets of incoming circuits to control 1 outgoing. And just because I've got enough lights on it, these are rated at 5 amps and I was pulling right at it. So I went ahead and just added 2 just so that I wasn't having some of the small flickering that was occurring at times. But it has 2 inputs, and what I've done is on the auxiliary 3 switch coming from the factory, I've got that as one of the inputs, and it just comes out and then into 2 of them to let it pass through. It's not overpowering the wire, it was just overpowering this device made for trailer lights. The second input that I have is, like I discussed earlier, coming from the actual truck bed. You can do it from the inside footwell. I did that on my wife's JL. If you follow the other video on that, I'll link. And then on the outside here, again, it just connects into having the red is going to the lights that I showed you earlier, the white is coming to the passenger side, and the black is going to the driver's side. So coming back, as you can see, it is on right now. So we've got that lighting. That is on the door being open. So it's also the same as my other lights that I have attached, both the rock lights and that side lighting. If I hit my lock button, most likely my alarm's going to go off because the hood is open. But I'll go ahead and do it just so you see it come off. But you saw the orange trigger. So if I hit that, you saw the yellow or orange flash. And that's going to stay on until it's able to go off. If pretty much everything goes normal at this point here. So at this point it's just a regular install. But as you saw, you were able to completely do this install. It took me about an hour, including recording and doing, sometimes going back and trying to make a second loop. But with that hour long, I was able to not have to remove the inner fenders like they said. It was a little harder to get some of the stuff, but I'm able to do it. And the fact that I didn't have to remove those and pull them all out, undo any of these, it just made it a lot easier for me. I did like the little splice into the factory piece to kind of help hide that wire. That was one thing I did find online. Go watch some of the other videos, figure out what's best for your install and what's going to work best for you. With that there, I can show you again the lights there, and the only way to do it is I can hit my hazards, because when the hazards are going, you'll see one of the problems you'll have depending on how you've set your stuff up. And again, I've set mine up specifically with the truck bed lights. When I hit that unlock button, you're going to see it flash orange, and then the white light is going to come on as a courtesy light. So that's just one of the things that I get with mine. Some overpowering light, but when you're walking up to that vehicle and it's dark, you can see everything. It's great. All right, you guys, and with that, we've got a full install. So now it's the most important thing to do during an install, and that's they gave us a sticker. Got to put it on. Now, I don't do it on my Jeep. For the Jeep, I do the places I've been, some of the trails, locations. As you can see, we've got some there. Of course, representing the mall crawl over here. But what we do is we do add some of them up on the wall here. So we've got a couple to add to. And then also we, collect a couple of the Hot Wheels up there for the Jeeps. So I think this one's going to go right there to get it done. All right, so I wanted to show you them at night. Obviously, I got some other lighting on it to help. But when turning it on, this is your nighttime light that it supplies. As you tell, pretty much all this light directly in the middle, kind of covering from this area, is directly from that. The other ones obviously been covered in my videos as far as what those provide on that. And then the rock lights are down below are almost not even viewable from it. And what I'll do is go ahead and turn on the turn signal so that you can see just how bright that is. And we'll do it with the running lights on too, that way you can see at nighttime. So even from the front, if you've got a vehicle kind of at a side at an intersection, they can't really see that front light going, but they can definitely see that one lighting up the side. So definitely happy with it, and I think it's a good install for what we've got and worth the money.